Hello everyone and welcome to another video, and today we are going to be answering the question, just how fast does Eliud Kipchoge run? Obviously very fast, but we are going to experience it for ourselves. You are going to witness me suffer and you are going to live vicariously through a terrible time that I had on the treadmill not all that long ago. So this has been sitting in the back of my mind for a few years since I saw the big treadmill at the expo, and it obviously has been for others too, as Mark Lewis, a social media friend of mine, I say that because I've not actually met him in the wild, although we have exchanged words over the internet, as it were. He put out this video a few weeks ago, which pushed me over the edge to think, you know what, if he's given it a go, I am going to as well. Not from a competitive point of view, but just because there is a scratch that needs itched for me that has been there for a few years. And as we both sort of operate within the larger than average runner space, I thought it would be good fun to give it a bash. So thank you, Mark, for being so accommodating to allow me to just basically do the same video. But please do go and watch Mark's afterwards if you haven't already, as it is thoroughly entertaining. Nonetheless, at this point, I thought it's probably wise to give you a bit of context on myself as an individual, as it will set the scene for who it is that is about to suffer through Kipchoge's blistering, unfathomable pace, plain and simple. So I'm Fergus Crawley, as I assume you have ascertained already by the fact that you are on my YouTube channel. If you haven't figured that out yet, then one, I'd go back to school, and two, hello. I am what the internet now calls, and what I call myself to be fair, a hybrid athlete, because I balance strength and endurance training concurrently. Very interesting hand gestures, very well timed I felt there, but anyway, that is me in a nutshell. And I think I've specialised over the past few years in the same day challenges, which wasn't really a thing before, but I'd like to think I've somewhat made it one. If you don't agree that I have, then at the very least, it's my thing, I would say. So in July of 2020, I was the second person in the world to have achieved the 500-pound squat and sub 5-minute mile in the same day. And as Adam Klink of Virginia had done it the week before I did, I added a marathon on at the end just to add an endurance element and sort of level it up for the next person going beyond. That was a tough day out, no two ways about it. 500-pound squat is a lot of weight, and a sub 5-minute mile is a fast mile. Not as fast as Kipchoge, might I add. But if you want to watch that video and see me suffer, bit of a theme forming here, then head to this video here and watch it for yourself. Following on the same premise, and exactly 1 year to the day later, I completed 1212, which was a 1,200-pound powerlifting total and sub 12-hour Ironman distance triathlon in the same day. And I also had a pretty bad time that day. It was very difficult, and I would not recommend it to a friend, but it's done, so I never need to do it again, is the way I view it. And you can watch that video here if you are interested, but I would recommend that you wait until you finish this incredibly entertaining video before you go and do so. Thirdly, playing on the same premise again and completing the holy trifecta of in the same day challenges that I have pulled arbitrarily out of nowhere and made for you guys to witness, was 660, which was a 600 kilogram powerlifting total and sub 6 hour 60 kilometer ultra marathon in the same day, which if you're interested in watching, you can do so via this video here. And I'll put the link in the description for all three of those videos for you to watch in your own time after this one, obviously. But I think the real summary of that and everything that I've done in between those events is that I have a lot of experience across strength disciplines, endurance disciplines, speed disciplines, and as a hybrid athlete, I have a very broad understanding of how certain paces feel, how certain weights feel. I've done a lot of distances. I've done top end, sort of 400 meters up to 100-mile ultra marathons. I've competed in triathlons, multiple iron distance triathlons, and my focus at the moment really is strength and triathlon. So there is running as part of my training, obviously, but I'm not as focused on top end speed work as I once was, which means going into this today, I was a little bit apprehensive, to be perfectly honest. But I think with this sort of challenge, with Kipchoge's sort of pace, we see the numbers on the screen, and as human beings, as even recreational runners, it's so difficult to comprehend actually how fast he is moving. So for me, as somebody who can run a sort of 18:10 5K at the moment, a sub 1 minute 400 meters. My last 60K was 5:56. I've got a good spectrum of what these things feel like. My mile PB is 4:58. My 10K PB is about 38:35 at the moment. I've just done a lactate threshold heart rate test, which you can view here, which is my most up-to-date running abilities, I'd say. And in the 30 minutes for that test, I came in at 7.62 kilometers, which was 3:56 per K pace, I think. So I can hold sub 4-minute Ks for up to 10 kilometers, I'd say, best guess at the moment. So for somebody that weighs 206, 207 pounds, about 93, 94 kilos for our American friends, to put me in the same speed category as Kipchoge at 52 kilograms, or this much for our American friends, would be quite the handicapped experience for myself, as I would be a little bit on the back foot, there would be more weight through that back foot, and I think I would suffer as a result of being quite a significant amount heavier and with a lot more lifting related fatigue in my legs. But we are going to put the comparison to you nonetheless. So that's all the context that you need on myself, really. But for a little bit more context on the man of the hour, as it were, his sub 2 hour marathon, he held 21.1 kilometers per hour for 42.2 kilometers, which is disgusting and completely unfathomable to me as a human being that runs fairly regularly. But for our American friends, that is 4:34 per mile. That is 2:50 per kilometer. Anything that begins with a 2 is really quite fast. And then when you're doing that for a marathon, my mind starts to boggle a little bit and I really don't know what to do next. Other than just ask questions on Reddit, I guess is probably the case. But what we're gonna do is I'm gonna head to the gym, you're gonna come with me, and we are gonna run through some pacings for my ultras, my 10Ks, etc., just to give you a bit of a visual context on how I'm moving, what my stride looks like, what my effort levels are like at certain paces, with the stats on the screen so that you can place it within the context of your own pacings. And then once we get to Kipchoge's top pace, I'm gonna hold it for as long as I can. So at this point in the video, please comment down below how long you think I, Fergus Crawley, 206 to 207 pounds body weight, 182 centimeters tall, 26 years old, can hold Kipchoge's pace for, and then return to it after we've done it. Bear in mind it's on a treadmill, so the wind isn't involved, etc., etc. But please comment down below and we will return very shortly. So why don't we head to the gym and work through the following pacings. So started things off at 10.9 kilometers per hour, which is 5:30 minute per K pace. And this is what I'd expect to hold for a 50 kilometer decent effort at the moment. All of my training for the 660 tail end of last year was working at 5:30 minute Ks. And then I'd sort of drop to 5:45, 6 minutes just to come in the time frame that I was wanting to work to at the time. But if I went best effort, hell for leather, held 5:30 the whole way, I think 5 minute 30 Ks for 50 kilometers, 10.9 kilometers per hour, as you can see here, would be a good pace to hold. So for some real life context, this sort of pace is what I would call the fake jog run that you do when a car is coming as a pedestrian and you're like, oh, and you sort of fake a run, but you're not really running. It's more of a sort of aggressive upward knee walk. And that's probably what that feels like. So pretty low effort, pretty low sweat demand, pretty low breath demand, heart rate's still pretty low. And then we move on to my marathon pace, which I have pegged today at 13 kilometers per hour. Marathon distance is not something I've ever really focused a best effort on. It will be in the future, but my PB at this sort of body weight is 3:17, which I did in summer of 2020, but I've never sort of really focused on it as a distance and gone full send. But as you can see, stride's starting to open up a little bit, starting to look like I'm working a little bit harder, but this is a pace that I can sustain for a long time. So moving on to half marathon pace, I've put this at 14.2 kilometers per hour today. And this is the sort of pace that I'd say we'd work up to if we were late to the bus and had it within our sights, bag on, sort of working away and then eyes on the prize. I think for the average person, this is a sort of pace we need to break out to make the bus on time. And as we're all in the business of making the bus on time, this is hopefully a pace that we can all understand to some degree. So 14.2 kilometers per hour here. As you can see, pace is starting to increase a little bit, but this again is still a pace that I could hold for quite a while. Moving on to 10K pace, which I think is a distance that a lot of us might be familiar with as recreational runners. It's certainly a distance that a lot of people have friends that have ran. I guess it's probably one of the most popular distances after 5Ks in the world of recreational running. But here I'm moving at 15.5 kilometers per hour, which is comfortable because I'm not running on this treadmill for that long at this pace. But this is where I'd say we're starting to put in a bit of effort. Sweat will start to form, heart rate will start to go up, stride will start to open up, and I'll feel like I'm working. But this is what this looks like. So for context, 15.5 kilometers per hour. And this is what, at the moment, I reckon I could hold for 10K. Best 10K of all time is around the 38:30 mark. And that was, again, around the sort of 205 pounds body weight mark. So I've got a good feeling of what my efforts are. So I should always have a good feeling of how certain paces feel. But this is the point where I started to get worried about how the top pace might feel, as it is pretty unknown territory for everyone on the planet, more or less. So moving on to 5 kilometer pace, which I think is probably the most universally understood distance when it comes to running. It was the one in lockdown in the UK where everybody just started sending it and doing their absolute best. There was the Run 5, Donate 5, Nominate 5. So everybody and their dog was running 16-minute 5Ks apparently. But people didn't know that you could check the elapsed time on Strava, did they? That was embarrassing for a whole load of the nation, wasn't it? Do you feel attacked? You should. You should. You should. So those of you that are park runners as well, you'll be very familiar with this distance, and I'm sure it's something that for the vast majority of us, if you wanted to give context on a good running time, most people, it's kind of the how much you bench bra of the running world. And this is what I had here. You can see I'm starting to run, there is effort starting to go in, but as I'm only holding this for a minute for purposes of this video, it wasn't too demanding, but heart rate's starting to go up, stride's starting to open up, and this is kind of the sort of pace that if you were worried you were being robbed, you'd had a phone call and you thought something was a bit dodgy, your Ring camera was telling you there was somebody on the front porch, but you were within running distance of your house, this is the sort of pace that I reckon you would need to hold to get there. So bear that in mind for next time. If you want to rob me, this is the pace that I'd come after you at, okay? Yeah, secured? Please don't rob me, please, please. Anyway, moving on to the mile pace. We have pegged this today at 18.4 kilometers per hour. For reference, my best mile of all time is 4 minutes and 58 seconds. But as my focus at the moment is strength and triathlon, I haven't been doing all that much speed work at the track. I'm still running sort of 2:35 800s. So I'm very familiar with this sort of pace, but it's not something I've been doing much of recently. So this is really where I started to feel like, oh, my legs are turning over here. I feel like there's effort coming. And if somebody had stolen Erin, my fiance's handbag, this is probably the pace that I'd set off after them, pretty confident that in 9 out of 10 situations, unless the thief happened to be Eliud Kipchoge, then I would be able to chase them down at this pace, potentially. So this point, heart rate was up, I'd settled down a little bit, and I thought it's time to give this a best effort. So my headspace on this was, I was pretty confident I could hold at least 90 seconds because 21.1 kilometers an hour is pretty fast. A lot of treadmills don't even go above 20 kilometers an hour. So being on this treadmill, I felt privileged to have the opportunity to hit the actual thing. But I went into it in the knowledge that I wanted to just hold it for as long as I can. Whatever that ended up being, I'd be happy with. So why don't we get right into it?
Just walking at 7.5k per hour at the moment, just the metric that the treadmill's using, just to get my heart rate down a little bit. I'm actually going to make that 7k because this feels quite laborious. So I'm going to get up to Kipchoge's pace at 12 minutes and then just hang on for as long as I can. Worth mentioning, obviously this is on a treadmill, so it's not completely accurate because there is a bit of a momentum advantage being on one of these, but it's the easiest way to keep the pace just running and me on it. So I will see you in 90 seconds, probably, before I get a significantly amount more sweaty.
So we set off from the 12-minute mark, and basically anything over the top of that, we are just going to run through and watch it in real time. As you can see, my feet are turning over, my arms could probably, from a technical point of view, be swinging a little bit more, and I could be tilted a little bit more forward. So for anyone that's going to come in and criticize my gait, then don't, because I've just done it ahead of you. So sorry, your comment can go elsewhere. As you can see here, my feet are working. There is turnover there, my cadence is quite high. And whilst my stride feels pretty solid, one thing to mention is I am asthmatic AF, and whenever I'm indoors, I really do struggle when the sort of turnover of oxygen isn't that great. So I had my inhaler close by, it is fair to say. But things are, at this point, quite comfortable in the sense that I'm obviously moving very, very quickly, and I'm under no illusions that I would not be able to hold this for a marathon distance. But I am thinking, oh, maybe you're going to be able to hold this for a couple of minutes, Fergus. Hang on, hang on. Then my hips start to get tight. Then I felt my heart rate go through the roof. I actually left my heart rate monitor at home, and wrist heart rate on this sort of effort is pretty useless, to be perfectly honest. So as we were moving through this, I started to lose any real sense of how long I could hold this pace for, because I've mentioned that I can hold pacing. I've got a good understanding of pacing from doing a range of different things. But this is unknown territory, not just for me, but for the majority of the planet. Kipchoge is one of the best runners ever to have graced the face of the earth. And as I've already mentioned, he would be excellent, truly, truly excellent at stealing something from me or my family. And this is really why I'm here. I'm training to be unstealable from through being able to chase down anyone in the world that might be slightly faster than me. And today was a good start. Today was a good start. As we can see, Focus is struggling on the camera, but you're 1 minute and 43 seconds down at this point. Things are feeling pretty solid, but I'm starting to flap about a little bit with my arms. You can see a bit of suffering in my face, a bit of sweat on my brow, as it were, a very British way of summarising somebody is under stress or pressure. My stride is still holding out as it was at the start, which is encouraging because it shows the fatigue isn't setting in too much. And at this point I start to think, okay, 3 minutes would be a really good effort, because in my mind, anything under 3 minutes for an 800 I hold as a decent time universally. So it would be nice to go over that sort of threshold. This is where I started working so hard that I stopped being able to think too logically, and I was just working in the really convenient at the front of my mind numbers that I had in play. So anything under a 3 minute 800, I was like, if I'm holding this pace for 3 minutes, that means that this is a really fast 800, which is good, so keep going. And all these thoughts came into play. But you can see that breathing's starting to increase, and my stride, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, it's not that amazing, really, because I am a thicker, with 2 C's, runner, as it were. And yeah, Campbell's choosing to zoom in on my face here. He's behind the camera now. I'm looking at him dead in the eyes. It's very awkward. It's very awkward. So he was zooming in on my face because I was starting to suffer, so he could obviously perceive where this was going. But at this point, this deep into things, I am starting to wonder, how on earth can a man run this fast for this long? This is ridiculous. Sweat started to increase, and I started losing all faith in the fact that I, in fact, could be stolen from by somebody on the street at some point in the future. So I'm going to spend less time in London, knowing that that is a risk. I'm never going to wear any luxury watches whilst in London, because it seems that somebody could indeed run away from me. And my dreams slowly started to shatter into a million tiny pieces, as did my running form very shortly. But you know what? At this point, I feel my stride actually came into its own, and I started to find a bit of a rhythm. Yes, you've got the treadmill, which carries a little bit of momentum for you. You don't have the changing gradient, you don't have the harshness of the tarmac, you don't have the wind outside, so anyone gearing up to say all that down below, yes, we all know, you're very clever, thank you, thank you. But this treadmill was pretty reliable as they go in terms of pacing, so 21.1k the whole way through here, and you can see breathing's going, face is going. I'm avoiding eye contact with the camera because it'd be awkward and weird if we didn't. But nonetheless, everything was moving in the right direction, and at this point, I actually, on the screen, don't know how long we've been going for, but it is a while. I'm sure I'm about to see it. But I am, yeah, my chin was kind of disappeared a little bit, so that means I'm struggling, apparently. I've never watched myself run like this. I'm learning a lot about myself, apparently. Quick note, Gymshark speed range is what I'm running in, and it is very, very cool, as well as very, very seductive, I've been told by at least 3.5 females, so you should definitely get involved if you are interested, and do so through my link in my description, as it is a way to help out the channel, and I would appreciate it very much, and it would put a smile on my face. This is now quite hard to watch, as I look wounded. My arms are a bit waddly. How deep are we? The camera's not going to focus. Okay, we are. Oh, I'm done. I was done. So why don't we just pass over to me on the floor to see how I really felt.
Treadmill mile PB. Doesn't really count, but it does on Strava. Maybe. I think I'll see you back at wherever we are conducting the voiceover, video over interview, because I have nothing to say for at least 45 minutes.
So I was very pleased to have held that for 5 minutes, which is actually, as I've covered on the floor, a mile PB, but it is on a treadmill, so it's not going to count, I am afraid. Might put it on Strava though, eh? Should I? Might I? Will I? Perhaps. Who knows? Go and follow me on Strava to find out. What a good plug that was, eh? Anyway, at this point, the right thing for you to do is to head back to your comment from earlier and reply to yourself saying whether you were right or whether you were horrendously wrong. If you have underestimated, then time to eat some humble pie, my friends, as I did on this treadmill today. If you have overestimated, then what on earth did you think I was capable of? You clearly have no understanding of my abilities, you fool. I'm just kidding. I love you all. So if anyone is spot on, send me a message on Instagram and I will send you a prize of some sort. Unless I know you and I've told you how I did beforehand, because that would in fact be cheating and you will not get a prize. Sorry. Having ran at that pace for 5 minutes, I am now pretty convinced that I would be able to work up to nowhere near 2 hours. Oh my God, how on earth can a human being do that? And what's really quite embarrassing is that was a 5-minute best effort for me, and I was rolling around on the floor like the Family Guy scene where they're all rolling around in their own vomit, only I was bathing in my own sweat, which I'm sure there is a cult in Midwestern America devoted to, but nonetheless, it's not for me to judge. It's not for me to judge. So I have no comprehension of how a man can hold that pace over that sort of distance, but what is even more embarrassing is that that is sort of the time frame pace that Kipchoge and all his mates probably used to run to school in. And here I am talking on the internet as if I've achieved something on a treadmill for 5 minutes, which is just a bit of a shame, really. It really does put things into perspective. So I now have some comprehension of the pace that Kipchoge holds for a marathon pace. And whilst it is completely unfathomable to me, all it does is reinforce just how much I admire him as an athlete, just how awesome his documentary and the story behind the whole thing is, and just how insane the human body truly, truly is. So I'm very pleased to have held that for 5 minutes. It does really, truly make you wonder how much of a different league people at that level of athleticism truly are, because I was burst. So at the very least, at this point, please make sure that you have liked the video as I suffered on camera for a whole 5 minutes for you there. So I think that deserves a like. And as the theme of today is speed, then very, very quickly hit the subscribe button. Thank you very much. Oh, you're fast, aren't you? Very good, very good. And if you have any other thoughts, feelings, comments, then please do stick them in the comments, funnily enough, down below. But other than that, any other content ideas, things in the same vein, please do comment them down below, as I will happily consider your suggestions, keyword being consider there. So one more time, make sure to like, comment, subscribe down below. Hope you've enjoyed watching, and I will see you next time.